The Algarve in Portugal. In the shadow of the Formula One circuit at Portimao, where Lewis Hamilton became 7 times world champion in 2020, lies the kart circuit, where the championship he won 20 years previously begins in earnest. 18 of the current 20 Formula One drivers began their journey in FIA Karting, and countless more are now racing at Indianapolis, Le Mans, and even further afield. For 140 drivers from all 6 continents worldwide, the FIA Karting European Championship will begin in hot but windy conditions. On a circuit famed for overtaking, slipstreaming, and an immense technical challenge, where limits will be stretched, nerves will be tested, and victory will be harder than ever to attain. For many of these young girls and boys, it'll be their toughest test yet, as the 2022 season begins. 2021 was a near-perfect season in the junior category for Ricky Flynn driver Freddie Slater. A dominant drive at Genk was followed by another at SA, only to be denied by a penalty post-race. Then came a sensational sprint to the line with Harley Keeble at Sarno, as they recorded the closest finish in FIA karting history. And finally came a triumphant win at Zoeira to become junior European champion. And this year he steps up to the OK category. Last season in OK, Rafael Camara came out of the blocks to take the win at Genk. But from that moment on, the season was Andrea Kimi Antonelli's to command, as he triumphed at SA, blitzed the field at home in Sarno, and romped to the title at Zoeira to become OK champion for the 2nd year running. Rumours suggest he could be back for the KZ World Championship later this year, but there'll be a new OK European champion in 2022. Maria Germano Nito will be our guide around the Portimao circuit as she flies through turn 1 flat on the throttle. Top end speed is critical here, but so too is good balance as you start to decelerate and then brake into turn 2. Then turn 3 kicks the kart sideways, so you need to have strength to correct it. Out of the square left and on the run to the hairpin at 5, a decent and common overtaking spot. A dash of curb on the exit to correct, then you stay on the throttle through the next left, but a slight blip may be needed on the next, just to stay in control. Then another overtaking chance into the double apex left-handers. Once done here, you turn right 3 times as you drop down the hill and the speed increases. The next big stop is a signature overtaking move, turn 12. Dive in and make the kart as wide as possible as the next 2 left-handers are treated as one as the elevation rises and the camber changes. The final 2 corners are where precision counts. Turn into the first with a bit of curb to balance the oversteer, then be strong but fast through the last corner, and you've just lapped the Portimao circuit in rapid fashion.
Karting was something that was very close to my heart because in the early, probably 90s, we could see that there was a lack of exposure for young kids. And when we had to get into a racing car, straight into a Formula 3 car or a Formula 4, without the exposure that the kids were getting in many countries, I found it a huge handicap. And that's when I got very involved in trying to ensure that we bring karting to many countries that didn't have this exposure for the young kids to develop their skills. You know, the whole philosophy behind it is to provide a platform to young children to develop the mindset and to understand the engineering portion of it, not just the driving portion of it, and also to work as a fraternity and get competitive from a young age and learn about the whole ecosystem of motorsport. You see, there is a lot of karting going on at different levels in many countries, but the dots are just not connecting up. We need to find strategies which we're working on and how to connect the dots, because CIK is about dealing with karting as a whole and not just in a particular segmented area.
I was trying to adapt to a pyramid, and obviously there's a lot of existing championships out there, championship organisers, and at the end of the day you need to make sure that we're not taking away from people's current business, but at the same token we need to make sure that we're coming up as the CIK, being the world governing body, we need to actually be there giving support to the ASNs across the world and actually really giving them a proper structure, a proper pyramid that people can actually follow to get to the very top of what we have here. But then bear in mind at the very base of karting, we've got corporate karting, indoor karting, and really trying to funnel people through. We've seen it over the years. Lots of people want to get right to the top of karting straight away, then leave the sport. And it's really important for sustainability that we cover it across the board, across the band. And I think actually the idea of having these sort of national categories and giving the toolkits, that's the thing, is giving the toolkits to ASNs that they can use and try and develop karting in their different nations across the board.
I'm really thrilled to be back here again and really thrilled to continue this project we have with the FIA and continue as the promoter. I think this year we face a lot of challenges. We've overcome COVID and now we're back here again. We unfortunately have some very unfortunate situations in the world that makes the market very difficult, but we are continuing to push all the time. And together with the new leadership in FIA, with the new president, with the new CIK president, our new vice president and a new structure in the office, I look forward to see where we're going to push karting to a new level in this year and for years to come. One thing that's very important for us to do is put back that humour and interaction. We need to engage more with the parents, engage more with the teams, engage more with everybody and build our community back and bring back the fans, because we've obviously been behind closed doors for 2 years. Well, one thing we did over Corona was we really worked really hard with television stations and distribution networks. We have a very good partner in a distribution company, and we managed actually now to successfully have 68 channels sign up with 128 territories worldwide, which are now hosting all of our highlight content. And now we are having more and more interest in our live feed, as you said, together with Motorsport TV, and also multiple other channels are taking interest. So for us, our goal is just to build karting and show it to the world.
For young racing drivers all over the world, this is the pinnacle of the sport. The OK Junior category is the toughest racing competition for young adults in the world, and to reach the final is a major achievement, where the drivers receive a medal presented to them by FIA Karting President Akbar Ibrahim and Vice President John Ryan. But it's also where the pressure truly begins. Dimitri Matveev lines up in pole position beside British star Nathan Tighe for the resurgent Sodi Kart team. In third place is Alexander Bondarev, flying the flag for Ukraine, with René Lammers beside him, continuing the family dynasty. Anatoly Kavalkin will start fifth, with the challenging Energy Course squad in hot pursuit, along with Belgium's Thomas Strauven. The recipe is ready for a tasty race.
Well, obviously I'm trying to be as fast as I can at every single moment, doesn't matter who is standing around me. I'm just trying to get as much as I can out of it. And this weekend he's also coaching me, so you never know your speed coming up on the mountain track. Maybe you're very fast, maybe you're very slow. And it's always going to be one underdog that's always fast on a particular track. Last year the level of junior was insanely high. Like there were some very good drivers there. They're also winning now, and some of them are winning now in OK, and it was a high level. And now I think it's dropped a bit, but still, a lot of drivers are very fast, and it's always hard to compete.
At the start, the inside line managed to hustle the outside line aside, and Matveev leads from Bondarev and Kavalkin, with Nathan Tighe wrestling valiantly around the outside to secure fourth position by turn 4. The drivers raced hard on the opening lap, but kept it clean and fair. Bondarev was threatening on the second lap, but Kavalkin beat him to it to pass the Ricky Flynn star into second. It didn't take long for Tighe to seize the initiative either, as he made the same move at the same place a lap later. On the next lap, Bondarev tried his best to reclaim the podium spot, but the Sodi Kart driver would not yield. As they started lap 5, the Ukrainian star finally found the gap and sailed past, but the two men up front were already pulling clear. So when would Kavalkin make his move, or would he leave it too late? Tighe would take back the position once again, and Bondarev once more struggled to return the favour. The tension was clearly mounting. With time running out and the gap increasing to the duo ahead, Bondarev had to step it up. But once more, he was denied. On lap 9, he dived for the overtake at turn 12, with Ty again resisting. And with one final effort, he saw an opportunity and took it into the penultimate turn. But the two of them drifted wide, and it was enough to see both their chances fade, as they lost out to Lammers, and the leaders disappeared. The train that had now developed was long and eager to progress. Strauven took on his teammate and moved into 4th position, whilst Ty went wheel to wheel with Jules Caranta, and Kirill Dezitiev made up a position, whilst Lewis Werrell duelled with Kirill Kutskov. With 7 laps to go and the fight for the win out of reach, Strauven moved ahead of Lammers, and Ty stormed up the inside of Bondarev, who ran wide and dropped even further back down the order, much to his growing frustration. But it wasn't over yet. Lammers caught and passed Strauven again, with Ty looking poised to battle back too. In the closing laps, Kavalkin was still close behind Matveev, but the Koski Motorsport driver had been protecting and managing his tyres and brakes, and he still had the speed to avert his attack. 3 laps to go, and with the fight for third looking likely to be claimed by Lammers, the two men behind consolidated a reasonable start to their European campaigns. After putting a slight gap on the Paralin behind him, Matveev could control the final lap with relative ease, and won his first and Koski Motorsport's first win at FIA Karting level, a momentous occasion for all concerned. They had won together before, but never as big a win as this. Behind Kavalkin and Lammers, Strauven would stay ahead of Nathan Ty and Kirill Dezitiev, with Jules Caranta, Kirill Kutskov, Martin Molnar, and FIA Karting Academy trophy winner Maciej Gledij fighting back to the top 10. With a pair of podiums for Paralin Motorsport and a first FIA win for Koski, it's a stupendous start to the junior season. However, with plenty of drivers who could challenge for the win, there are still plenty of questions unanswered. And with the title fight moving on to Spain, this epic tale has only just begun. But for now, it's time to get busy with the fizzy.
The weekend was full of concentration, and basically all the concurrents were close to me, so it was hard. From the quali, I did a really good job because I won the qualifying. I won 4 hits out of 5. In the final, I got pole position from the start and got a good start. Probably pulled away a bit. I wasn't looking back, and I was just looking in front to concentrate on my driving. I defended a bit, but just to be sure that I can win. And I succeed, and I'm really happy about that. For sure, I want to say really big thank you to Jan and my mechanic Kasper. Okay, basically whole team Koski Motorsport, because they did a brilliant job and setting the car brilliantly, as you can see. So yeah, without them I couldn't actually do anything.
The final was fine. I like always following Dmitry, and I can't overtook him because I little bit mistake before last lap. I feel like good because the array is good track for me, and we will see. Thank you for all for support me, and thank you for Paralin racing team.
The win was too far for me in the superheat, so I had to start P4 in the final on the outside again. So I dropped back to P6 at the start, and then from P6 I managed to, they were fighting very hard. Dmitry and Anatoly managed to drive away with everybody in those laps. In the rest of the laps, when I was P3, because Ty and Bondarev, they were a bit dodgy. Just had to defend for the whole race to stay P3.
It needs a lot of work, a lot of practice. We come to test here already 3 weeks ago, to find the setups, what we're going to use in the races, and we find the setups that work for everyone, and the result is these ones. It's not getting any easier for sure, but of course it helps when you have a win behind you. It's maybe helping mentally for everyone that you know you are able to win the races, and so for sure for the whole team it's a nice thing and it helps, but the work will be still the same or even more.
To progress to the senior category is another huge step up, with a higher top speed and an even more intense physical challenge. Drivers must be 14 during their first competitive season, and not only will they race against fellow rookies and Grand Prix stars of the future, but also the drivers destined to be written into karting legend. It's an all-Tony Kart front row as Ward Racing's Artem Sevrukin lines up beside factory driver Joe Turney. Evan Gilter is third for VDK Racing, beside Ian Eichmans of Belgium. Thomas Stolchemanis of Latvia will start on row 3, beside reigning world champion Tuukka Tarpanen. And on row 4, Juho Valtonen starts beside the reigning junior world champion Kian Nakamura-Berta. With Enzo Deligny leading the charging pack behind them, the final is set to be the toughest and longest race of the weekend.
I'm really excited for this year. Last year I couldn't complete the whole European Championship as I broke my arm, but hopefully this year I'll do my best and I'll see what I can achieve. Here in the European Championship, every heat you can't make a mistake, you have to do minimal damage and you have to try to stay in that top 5 all weekend, every weekend. It's a lot of hard work put in by the team and everyone just try to stay the best. Obviously I moved up from junior last year to seniors. Quite a big difference, much more physical. The senior has more speed, more mid-range, so you have to train a lot more on your neck, especially the corner speed is also much higher. It's increased obviously, I've moved up to the senior category where there's more older people as well, but some of my old competitors who was in junior have also moved up, so it's a little bit more of a mix. It's a mix of the front runners I raced last year and also the more advanced drivers who are senior. I'll just put in the most effort I can, but try my best. Stay consistently in the top 5, top 3 hopefully, and we'll see what result I can get.
For once, Joe Turney was able to draw level through turn 1, but as he was squeezed, he had to blip the throttle to avoid contact. The chain reaction sent Tuukka Tarpanen spinning, and a pile-up ensued. Up ahead, the pole sitter Sevrukin settled into an early lead ahead of Gilter, Stolchemanis and Nakamura-Berta, as Turney was forced to drop back behind the fast-starting Oscar Pedersen. But Joel Bergström was out on the spot, as were Luca Savalisto and Matthias Morgato. Tuukka Tarpanen and Victor Gustafsson would struggle on, the latter eventually retiring. Max Popov would walk back to the pits in disbelief. And Alex Powell would limp back to the pits with a wounded kart and would end his race there and then. Having been given a golden opportunity, Nakamura-Berta set his sights on the podium, passing Stolchemanis on lap 2. But the leader was already a few kart lengths clear, and Gilter in second position was the Japanese talent's next target. Back in the pits, all former KZ2 European champion Gustafsson could do was tell his mechanic what happened. After 6 more laps of patience and smooth driving, the writing appeared to be on the wall, as the trio fighting for second couldn't quite do enough to catch the Ward Racing driver up front. So it was inevitable that something needed to change. Thomas Stolchemanis repeated the move that Nakamura-Berta had made on him, to reclaim third place. But Pedersen and Turney were gaining ground rapidly. Turney had recovered well after his earlier problems, and a swift move on lap 9 sent him ahead of Pedersen. But the British driver's charge was just getting started. A lap later, and Stolchemanis had finally caught Gilter, and the energy course swept past with the signature move at turn 12, with Nakamura-Berta nearly joining him. Lap 12 and in the slipstream, the Japanese star gained sufficient ground to sweep past Gilter, with a podium finish still possible in his first FIA senior weekend. But Gilter wouldn't stand for that, and as he retaliated, they both drifted wide, allowing Turney and Pedersen to sweep past them both. The attrition rate was particularly high in Portugal. Rafael Modenese joined Gabriel Gomez on the sidelines as the retirement list rose to 8. And just a few laps later, Karel Pazovic on the Birolart would join them after his own incident on track. Stoljomanis was doing everything he could to gain on Severukin and started to close in. But little did he know he had a front fairing out of position, which would cost him a podium finish post-race. The Ward Racing driver out front was flawless throughout. But Turney pushed hard to close up, ruining the time lost on the opening lap, as without it, he could easily have challenged for the victory on track. By the final lap, the Latvian had caught the race leader and was determined to push the Ward Racing pilot into a mistake. But with only 1 lap remaining and half a second to gain, it wasn't enough time, and the energy course would finish behind the Tony car. As the checkered flag flew, the top 3 remained in position, with the drivers in second and third left wondering what might have been, as Severukin had led every lap without drama. As the Ward Racing team celebrated, Stoljomanis learned his fate, and it would promote Turney to second, and Oscar Pedersen would inherit his maiden podium. Nakamura Berta would be 4th on his FIA senior debut ahead of Gilter and Enzo de Ligny. Stoljomanis was eventually awarded 7th ahead of Freddie Slater, Ian Eichmans and the Flying Finn Juho Valtonen. The FIA immediately launched a post-race investigation into the conduct during the OK final podium ceremony, and therefore the results remain provisional, pending an official review. But at least Rebecca Ward could lift the winning team manager's trophy for Ward Racing on her birthday.
Yeah, another good weekend. A strong weekend 2 weekends ago, and winning a lot of heats throughout the 2 weekends, but always Artem was winning his at the same time. That was the problem. So he started second in the final. Speed was good, but had not a great start. So yeah, another good weekend. Not quite on the top, but a lot of confidence for the next races. Yeah, I think the material is obviously working really well. We've been on the podium, I think, in the last 5 races, and you can look at the results and see that the material works well. So there's no reason to say why it won't work at those tracks as well. So I think we have a lot of confidence as a team and as a group to go ahead and produce some good results at the next few races.
It has been a tough weekend. We was good in qualifying, but in the qualifying heats we struggled a bit to find the pace and have a problem with the tire wear. But then I just kept my head down and know that in the final with the new tires I was going to be fast. So yeah, just worked my way up there. And then obviously we were a bit lucky that Thomas had a front penalty, so I ended up in 3rd.
Everybody is really hard working and trying their best in any situation. And I am just proud that everybody is focusing on the same things, and things have fallen our way this past 2 weeks, and we hope it can continue like that. For this race we managed to prepare well before the race, and that we cannot do for Suera, so we have now we are everybody on the equal terms for next weekend, because practically nobody have been there for a serious test before the race. And that will be a much harder occasion than it was here, because here we were a little bit in advance and had an advantage for that. But for the next coming races it will be very hard. But we are confident and we have prepared well, and I think we can managing the situation as good as we have a capacity to do.
So in the season opener at Portimao, it's the Scandinavian teams that have stormed into victory lane, with Koski Motorsport and Ward Racing reaping the rewards of hard work and basking in the achievement. But this is only the beginning. Today, they can celebrate. But tomorrow, the hard work begins all over again. In one of the toughest championships in motorsport, teams have returned to the front, new faces have emerged, and new challenges will face the competitors in the days and weeks ahead. The circus never sleeps in European karting, as the teams will now pack down their awnings and drive the trucks for 14 hours to reach the north of Spain. The second round of the European Championship sees the return of the Circuito Internacional do Zuera, where the fight for the European crown continues. Who will be triumphant, and what battles will the drivers have to fight? Tune in next time to find out.